Today I'm going to build the blaster from Alien Romulus. Algorithm be damned. For this build, I used EVA foam, craft foam of various widths, dowel foam, bevel foam, also of various widths, dot foam, only one width, random foam, all sorts of shapes, coffee foam, 1 cream, 2 sugars, super glue, hot glue, cutting tools, sanding tools, safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter. First, I figured out the pattern on some old cereal boxes. I've fallen into the habit of making the templates in real life, and then once I know that they'll work, then I scan them in and make them available to the general public. Let me know if you guys want templates for this build in comments down below, and I'll get to it. There just wasn't enough time to get that done before the video this time around. Like, we were gonna do a sketch, but our schedules were just too crazy. Once I had a rudimentary template that I liked, I traced it onto a floor mat tile and then cut it out. I had to go diagonally to get the most length out of a single tile. It helps that in this franchise, they tend to cut the corners off of anything rectangular, so caught a break there, because there's no corners in the future. Actually, that one I buy. You don't know! I also cut out the holes for the handles. The 1/2-inch foam seems to cut the best, but you still want to occasionally sharpen the blade on a sharpening stone. Then I flipped it and did the other side. You have to flip it symmetrically if you want the pattern to be hidden on the interior. Then I glued the 2 halves together. Despite the diagonal trace, the floor tiles weren't quite long enough, so I had to use scrap to make the stock. That's the basic silhouette of the blaster, which is going to serve as the internal core, which really only works as a silhouette right now. Now it's time to add details. I started with white craft foam for the first layer of detail. The thinner it gets, the harder it is to cut straight lines, because it wants to move around under the stress of being cut in two. So I had to weight it down with, let's say, solder. Normally I use metal blocks, but the shop is in a transitional state right now for reasons. And since everything's packed up in moving boxes right now, I can't find any of my usual tools. So I have to make do with what I have on hand. I store tools like the Egyptians hide the Ark of the Covenant. And I don't know where I put the Eye of Ra, so can't find anything. Not my machinist blocks or the Antikythera mechanism. Hashtag Bronze Age problems. I was able to get away with using the same templates for the white foam that I used for the gray foam, with some minor adjustments. And again, because the craft foam has even less surface area than the floor mat foam, I had to break it up over several sheets in order to get the full length of the carbine. Is it a carbon? Carbine? I don't know. It's clearly based on the M41 from Aliens, which was actually built on top of an old Thompson. See how you can hide the shape of the old blaster inside the new one? By the way, if you get the impression that I'm speaking in code during this whole build, it's to get around our robot overlords. AI can't really tell the difference between a prop boomstick and a real boomstick. It's going off of a translation of what I'm saying right now. Some of my old Star Wars blaster builds got demonetized just because I used real life words to describe sci-fi props. And if you want to help get rid of the annoyance of me having to talk in code while making these videos, then consider heading on over to the Patreon page and joining these fine people. If it weren't for them, these videos wouldn't be possible at all. But when I don't have to rely on the ad revenue, I can pretty much do whatever. I used to get a lot of requests for Archer props, and I love Archer, but they're all, real blasters, And the AI wouldn't like that. Because it can't tell the difference between real conflict and fictional conflict. Conflict is what moves a story forward. That's how stories work. Did you see 1917? This is how stories work. Conflict, then resolution. And on top of everything, I'm trying to do this build while moving. That's why the shop keeps changing. This build, it's only been possible because of generous donations from patrons like Gabriel T, who really chipped in this month. Really saved my bacon. And if that kind of generosity is a little steep for the casual viewer, no worries. Every little bit helps. Yeah, I'm just saying. Now, back to the build. What's going on? Oh, still foam smithing? I'm shocked. See, it honestly doesn't take too much dialogue to explain what I'm doing. It's just, but there's a lot of footage of cutting up foam. I gotta even it out. Hence the rambling. Okay, so now it has some depth, which is great, but it needs detail. Intricate detail. So let's get on that. I added a bolt to line up with the one on the Tommy. Next, I made the panels on the stock out of craft foam, and then I made the handle grip from dark brown foam floor mats with the pattern side turned outward this time. I usually try to hide the pattern on the inside, but occasionally it works out to leave it exposed. I cut those in half to be the right width and then glued them onto the handle. Then I took a half foam dowel and glued it to the stock to bulk it out. Then I added this obnoxiously complex detail to the side. Totally necessary. Thanks for that, Gergely Demoki, head prop maker of the new movie. I think they got it. I think you guys got it. You got that one? All right, let's keep going. Although there's a lot of right angles, some of the edges have to be rounded, so I rounded those off on my belt sander, as need be. It's very few, mostly just around the handle. For the smaller nooks and crannies, the alcoves, if you will, I used my rotary tool. Then for the forward grip, I used a rectangular section of dark round foam and heat formed it with my heat gun. Oh no, I said it. I said the word that you can't say, with my heat blaster. Yeah, I think they're originally meant as paint peelers, so I'm just gonna be calling it a paint peeler from now on. Oh, this is exhausting. It's becoming daytime television. After it was heated up, I formed it with my hands and the workbench and stuck it into a cylinder transparent for your benefit. When it cooled, I glued the edges together. And the atoms in the workbench. Seriously, how much detail do I really need to go into at this point? It's whittling. I'm just whittling and carving foam with much more precise tools than a Swiss Army knife. Why am I even talking? Something, put it in a tube, or else the whole thing will explode. The tube is the red wire of prop making. And then I used this tool to cut a trench because of reasons. It didn't quite work. Yeah, I guess I gotta sharpen those. So I ended up finishing the trench with an X-Acto blade. Same thing on the other side. It's pretty much symmetrical. Now I can glue the grip in there and it'll sit right. That's all the trench was for. I know it's super ugly, but it's gonna be covered up by detail, so no big deal. Then I put bevels on top of the grip, one by one. Hey, stop motion. Nice. And then the bevels, which you can buy in craft stores, you can also make them yourselves by cutting and sanding. You know, it's like you buy a bevel, it's $3 and no labor. You sand, it's like free, but you burn more time in labor and potential lung damage. Choose your poison. Although I did just have a chest x-ray and they said that my lungs are fine. So yeah, just keep wearing the masks. Just wear the masks while sanding, you know? The masks are working. And I didn't know about the masks in the beginning. How long have I been doing this? 15 years? Yeah. Although take breaks, because like they're really heavy duty masks. They cut down on the amount of oxygen you get. So don't be wearing them. Like don't be sort of like time it out so that you're not sanding all day long, you know? Sand for a few minutes at a time. Yeah, be smart about these things. So there's this triangular strip with a whole bunch of notches in it. I decided to draw on those details with the Sharpie using a popsicle stick as a spacer. I don't know if that's metric or imperial. I'm not saying it's the best solution. I'm saying that it's a solution. Then I glued that on, and then I filled in that middle portion with 3mm foam. Came from a roll originally, but that's long since cut up for other projects. I don't even remember which one. Probably a stormtrooper? Yeah, a lot of these details are left over from previous projects. I think this one's from a Farscape robot, but I can't be sure. But if you have to make foam circles from scrap, this is how you do it. This is a leather hole punch, but also any sharpened metal pipe will do. That's all these are. They're sharpened metal pipes. Then I added those random bits all over the place and beefed up the stock. I also added panels for the ammo readout. If I ever get around to a test film, I'm just gonna do that as an effect because I conveniently already recorded a digital readout countdown for another project. So I'm against using only CG. You know, I like to do practical props when I can, but I don't mind using CG to enhance a practical effect. This is metallic coated craft foam, which is a thing now. I first tested this out on one of my BD1 droids. I don't think the original though. Yeah, I was bummed out about selling the prototype, but I still have the templates, so just built another one, and I think it works. And the silver foam, I think, really added some variation in the paint job, you know, at least cut down on masking. Now for the rivets. So many rivets. Just dots. And then some screen door material for the grill. You can find this from a screen door. And that's how he got West Nile. You can also just buy it. You know, it's a lucrative business. People always got to repair screen doors. Any hardware store you can find this stuff. And I put some random gaskets on the front for the muzzles. Some were foam, some were plastic. Then I added brackets to hold the cable. Some of these were gray 2mm foam and some were dowels. For the cable itself, I used an extremely narrow foam cylinder. I think the company that makes these went out of business, but I found some had fallen behind my old workbench while I was moving, and it was perfect. Although you can also use a regular black wire, you know. And that's how to make alien repellent. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons. These videos just wouldn't be possible without the support of my patrons. So if you enjoy these builds, want to see more of them, and want your build request to carry a bit more weight, then think about heading on over to the Patreon page, where you can enjoy ad-free early uploads. Anything you can pledge goes towards improving the video quality and shop equipment, as well as allowing me to put together bigger and more exciting projects for you on the channel. Alright, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, because it's kind of at a totally random schedule. And let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later!